Let's get to our guest. It's Ken Newburger, Executive Director of the Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association. Ken, good morning, sir. Do you have somebody with you, by the way?
Yes. I'd like to introduce Cliff Osbon, who is a member of the Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association board, managing partner of Steep Hill, Mississippi, who will be looking to get into the testing side of medical marijuana.
So this is something that came up, I think, yesterday or the day before with the Lieutenant Governor. As far as testing,
I believe so. Cliff's background is he's former president of the Mississippi Pharmacists Association and current mentor over there, and so I'm happy to have him with me.
Cliff, say hello. Can you hear me, sir? Everything okay with you?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here.
You need to get a little bit closer to the microphone there.
Fantastic.
And raise it up some. We're going to have a tutorial on show prep here for some reason.
Yeah, that would probably help me out a little bit.
Yeah,
Thanks,
there you
Paul.
go.
It's great to be here. Appreciate the chance to come on.
Appreciate it very, very much. All right, Ken. We're not sure when this is going to be taken up in the House. I understand the initiative process is going to be one of the things today. I'm not sure if how deep they're going to get into this, but if you have any idea, do you know the forces that be when they will begin the assault on this one in the House and Senate?
On the initiative process, no.
Not the initiative process on medical marijuana.
I believe pretty soon, thanks to Kevin Blackwell in the Senate and Lee Yancey in the House, thanks to all their leadership on this, I think the Senate is ready to look at the bill.
You're saying that they've gone through the draft and this is the final draft?
Whatever draft drops is going to be the final draft. That's my understanding.
Have you seen it?
The current one, no. The last one I saw was in October when they made a lot of edits.
So there's a lot of things in there you haven't seen.
I believe, from my understanding, the only things that they really added were some extra definitions to help law enforcement do their job more clearly, and then other portions of the code that need to be attuned for this specific program.
Ken, I think most people, and Cliff also, you can chime in anytime you want to. I think most people want to know with the Medical Marijuana Medical Marijuana Association, are you guys a front for the gateway of moving into recreational marijuana, or are you a spokesperson organization that really wants medical marijuana? And how do you put it at that trust factor there?
Well, that's a really easy question. You give me those two answers. We're wholly behind medical marijuana, and that's it. I think the way that we build trust on that is going back to the fact that this program has been vetted for the past several years. Over the past 8 months, our legislature has been deliberating on this, meeting with different departments, different people across the state, making sure that it's one of the most regulated programs in the nation. And I'm pretty happy to say every time I've read this bill, it's gotten more and more tightly regulated. So how
do you answer the criticisms of the governor as far as maybe it's too much of an allowance of marijuana at one time?
Well, 16 other states have only medical. Of all those states, only one, which is Rhode Island, has less than what we're going to allow in our bill, and they also allow home grow. So who knows how much people are actually growing in their houses? Ours doesn't allow that. Ours has the least amount that any state that is only medical allows.
This is how does that figure out too? Because we never talk about the edible part of this. The potency of the edible, do they match the potency of the smoke? Is the potency of the edible brought up somewhere in the language?
Yes. So the way that it's handled is the equivalent units that have been written into the bill, however much the actual raw product would allow, you can have no more than that in an edible. So it's the same across the board.
Who is part of your organization, your association?
Well, Cliff here in the studio with me.
Yeah.
We've also got several business people across the state who have joined, all the way from Tishomingo up top down to Jackson County at the bottom. So
we're talking growers and distributors?
Growers, distributors, testing facilities, manufacturers, transportation. We've even got some people talking about getting in on the destruction side and on the research side.
Cliff, tell me a little bit about this, because we had some folks talking about this on the C-SPAR text line yesterday, just saying that it is very difficult and very expensive to test this. Are we going to be able to test it? And, of course, the now COVID twice Lieutenant Governor joked about Andy Gibson doing this, but and he was just joking, of course. But give us an idea of what we're talking about as far as testing this to make sure we get the quality and also the potency that's under state law. Because I'm guessing that if somebody stopped, and I don't even know how you would do this, if they have more than what is allowed under state law, they could be criminally prosecuted, number one. But how do you test the potency from a stop?
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. I appreciate that. So as a pharmacist, I've spent the last 35 years working in a way to maximize public safety and minimize public risk. So, our job is to help people get well and minimize risk of side effects and things like that. And I kind of bring that attitude here to the testing space. In most states where there is a medical marijuana program, or in all states in which I'm familiar, the state requires that the product be tested before it can be sold. And we all would agree that's a great idea. We don't want someone who's sick and vulnerable to take a product that might cause harm and not be helpful. So the things that we would test for and other testing entities would test for, the strength, as you pointed out, the amount of THC, the active ingredient that's in the product.
This is an edible and also smoke?
Edible, smoke, the drops, the tinctures, any dosage form that's available we would test. We would test for pesticides, right? Because crops are often treated with pesticides. We don't want any pesticide residue. And the cultivators are experts at how to minimize or get away with or do away with any pesticide, but we still need to test it. These plants can absorb heavy metals if there are any in the water or the soil, like lead or cadmium or chromium, and so we will test for those to make sure they're not present. And then a few other things, bacteria, fungus, test those type of products to make sure that all of those are clear and clean before anybody can ever buy a dose.
What is the name of your organization or your business?
Yeah, so we are Steep Hill, Mississippi. We're a group mostly of Mississippi folks that wanted to participate in ensuring the safety of the product. And we licensed the Steep Hill name from a company out of California, and we'll use their time-tested laboratory procedures as the basis for how we will test products.
Your testing facility will be physically located where?
In the Jackson Metro. We're still looking at real estate. We expect to make a decision soon, but it will be in the 3-county Jackson Metro area.
How fast can you get it up and running?
That's a good question, and there'll be a lot of pressure because we certainly need to be ready before the market has product to be tested, right? So some months from now, we'll need to be ready. And the things that we have to do in advance of that is get our equipment. This is all custom made, so we have to order it and have it delivered. And I think everybody knows there might be a supply chain issue here or there. So we're looking for our testing regs as soon as the Department of Health can publish those. We're excited to see those. We'll have to go through what's called ISO accreditation. So everybody drives past these big factories like a car plant and sees ISO certification. Likewise, our lab has to meet certain...
It stands for what?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Our standard is ISO 17025, and that's about as far as I can carry that. But we'll have to meet their standards and prove that before we can start testing commercially.
But then again, you talk about the supply chain. We can't get this from outside across the borders of the state of Mississippi, so that's going to take a while for that to start growing.
That's correct. There'll be a number of months before there's product ready to be tested in Mississippi.
Yeah. Ken, I want to ask you about the latest as far as vaping is concerned. He was giving us the way that most of this is delivered. We'll talk about vaping and where we are on that more with Cliff Osbon and also with Ken Newburger and more coming up. Hang on. Let's return to the Gala Show on a Thursday. Ken Newburger is in with Cliff Osbon. Let's continue the what we're talking about on Ken. As far as vaping is concerned, is that something you guys are pushing for? It's been off and on. What's the latest on that?
It's my understanding that all forms of consumption are in the bill.
So would you use, and help me out here because I don't know, you'd use the delivery system would be, the vape is nothing more than a delivery system as far as smoke is concerned.
Correct.
And the potency would vaping supersize it in a way, would make it more potent, or would vaping deliver that marijuana to the blood system? Maybe more to ask you, Cliff, as a pharmacist. Would that be something that you would get the effects of the medical marijuana in a pot form faster than an edible? You're
exactly right, Paul. So with edibles, most clinicians say that's going to take an hour or so for the drug to get into the bloodstream and give some effect.
It takes that long?
With an edible, that's my understanding. But with some medical conditions, like let's take seizure disorders as an example, people can't wait that long for the medication to go to work. So if they're going to use medical marijuana, they're going to have a faster delivery system. And most of us are not big fans of people smoking or things like that, but that a vape cartridge or inhaled smoke could be a way for people to get the drug into their bloodstream quickly and stop a seizure or get some other type of immediate relief.
Ken, would that be sold as just a product itself, vaping? In other words, the cartridge is already loaded?
Yes, that in a licensed medical dispensary, yes.
I got you. What else do we need to know? What parts of this in the bill are worrying you the most as far as making this a viable industry in our state and serving the people who need it as far as patients?
Really, the passing of it has me. We need to do it sooner rather than later is my thing. I mean, we've been working on this since 2018 when Initiative 65 was filed, and then all throughout last year legislatively. So it's really that patients, you asked me about how I feel about them, they're having to wait, and that's what's making me upset about it.
Do you think there's some doubt that it will pass?
No.
In the current legislative session?
No, I think we'll see it very quickly in the Senate and shortly thereafter in the House.
Cliff, let me ask you, what would happen if the Biden administration just kicks the ball and it goes all the way through the process in making it on a federal level no longer illegal? What does that do, not only to Mississippi's marijuana industry, but the nation's?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure I have a great answer for it, but right now product cannot legally cross state lines, and so all of these business systems are contained within a state. So in Mississippi, the growing, the testing, the processing into some usable form, and the dispensing will all be done within the state, largely by folks from the state for the most part. With the passage of a federal bill, I suppose that could change, and I suppose product could cross state lines and people could manufacture in one area and ship it to another.
Competition. Yeah, it'd add more competition to it.
You would think so, right.
What does it look like as far as walking into the store? Let's just say this is done and we're in July or August or fall of the year, and there's a pot store on the corner. I'm sorry, a medical marijuana store on the corner, and the bud tender's there. Can you come in and drop a Visa card? Can you do that, or do you have to have cash?
You can. There are a lot of products. There's a great company out of Arkansas and a couple companies here in Mississippi that are actually building products to be able to take Visa or MasterCard debit, not a credit, but you can use a card.
And my understanding is that the pharmacists are nowhere in this. Have they? Would that allow pharmacists to sell it? In other words, if they did away with the federal part of this, would a pharmacy be able to handle this as well as a vendor, a licensed store?
Well, we're back to your federal law question from earlier, because right now marijuana federally is known as a Schedule I substance, and pharmacists cannot dispense Schedule I substances. We could argue all day long whether it should be classified that way or not. People are going to take different positions on that. But within Mississippi, we can fix that. We can have a bill that says, okay, it's not a Schedule I substance in our state, but that still might not allow pharmacists with multi-state licensure or pharmacy businesses with multi-state licensure to be involved. So as it stands right now, pharmacists will not be dispensing this product in the state of Mississippi as a pharmacist. They might have some involvement as a business owner otherwise.
What's the startup cost, Ken, if somebody wants to get into business? It's not cheap.
Well, thankfully, our bill makes it very easy for smaller businesses to get into the business. It is not cheap. You're right. It's a very expensive business to get into. But I think our law has ways for Mississippians to get involved in ways that other state laws weren't as well written. They were not as conscious of the startup costs. And I think thanks to the leadership in the House, we've seen that come together.
You have any background in this at all, Ken?
Not from a business or a consumer standpoint.
I'm just asking.
Only this is the right thing standpoint.
We have a question on ceasefire text line. Can it be used in a nebulizer?
Yes.
What about secondhand smoke? Is there a problem from secondhand smoke?
Well, the bill, I've read it a few times where it doesn't allow for public smoking. So secondhand smoke is a private home issue, just like it is with any other smoking. Secondhand smoke is not as strong with marijuana as it is with other smokable drugs or products. So we're good there.
Cliff, I don't want to push back on. Well, I do want to push back on it. I mean, I've had people on the air said that the smoking gets in your bloodstream faster, of course, than when you eat it. We understand that. But that hour that you said, it seems to be the longest term I've heard, anywhere from 10 minutes to about 15 minutes. But I've never heard that it takes an actual hour. But you're standing by that?
You know, I'm not coming here as a clinician, Paul. I mean, I am a pharmacist, but I'm not an expert on the pharmacodynamics of THC. My understanding is most people in most states report that they do have to wait 30, 45 minutes or an hour to get the effect from edible THC.
We have one problem in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has got a myriad of problems. And I think the reason for that is because you had people who were for and against. And I'm the kind of guy in the middle. I am for a good medical marijuana program, but I want to make sure it's done right. And I don't want to see us do what Oklahoma's done because they've got problems. The governor said on the air with me this week a statement that resonates with me. He said the tremendous popularity from passing pot legislation and having pot is at its peak on the day it's passed. After that, day by day, week by week, year by year, decade by decade, the popularity gets less and less. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid at places like Oklahoma. One of their problems that they have too much pot out there. You got people growing it. There's an underuse, and there was a lot of disappointed people who walked in. They cannot use their insurance, so they got to dole out. I'm not sure, but you walk into a pot store, and you're not going to pay less than what? $50, $100, or $300 and up. So address that, Ken.
Well, the cost, I can't really address that because it's a market supply and demand issue, and we haven't had a market yet. But I can talk about Oklahoma a little bit. Oklahoma has a lot of problems, as you say. One of the biggest issues is you can grow it outside. It really is everywhere in that problem, and that's not allowed under our bill. Ours is much more contained to where people report they will be growing, and it gives a lot of authority to the Departments of Health and Agriculture to go and enforce the law where they need to. But the bigger problem with Oklahoma is that it's just too broad, and that's not what we have here.
They have allowed too many vendors too, is my understanding, for the population that they have in Oklahoma.
Well, again, that's a supply and demand issue that I think that we all, as free market believers, will see that be better contained here, just because our higher standards of actually getting a license exist.
Any of your members or any in the association, or how many growers are we talking about in the state? Do you have an idea that's ready to go?
Yeah, I think
have invested.
I think we're probably going to be looking at somewhere around across the state about 100 to 120 growers of varying sizes. Yeah. I mean, you've got small grows of 500 square feet. That's a grower, and then you've got growers that have 65,000 square feet in a place just north of here.
And Ken or Cliff, I got to ask you this real quick. Every bit of that's got to go through a testing facility. And how many testing facilities do you think we'll have in the state?
Yeah, well, we don't know yet. I talked to colleagues around the state that express an interest in opening a testing facility, and I'm hearing from people probably less than a half a dozen. But I think the best estimates are that will support the market well and be able to test as many batches as need to be tested to maximize safety.
I hate to interrupt you, but you guys are going to kind of be a little bit like the ABC of the liquor. It's got to come through you before it gets to the stores. Am I right?
We will have to test it first. I'm not sure if I love the comparison to the ABC or not.
Hey, guys, don't be a stranger. Come on back. Let's do it a little bit later in the session, okay?
Sounds great.
Thank you, Paul.